DoBig Studios, founded by John Kanata on May 20th of 2020, one of the most hated groups on all of Roblox and potentially considered one of the worst groups on all of Roblox. DoBig's business model is basically based on buying newly hyped games from small Roblox developers and then optimally monetizing and updating them in order to make as much money as possible without actually making any well-developed or original games themselves. And they have many more problems other than just being a shitty Roblox group and the Roblox equivalent of a private equity firm, from blackmarketing to exploiter association, and problems that have never actually been properly covered against them. DoBig Studios and their top-ranking members deserve to be banned off of Roblox, and today I want to cover some of that better, as well as cover why the group itself is just bad for the platform. Make sure to subscribe and check me out over at twitch.tv/Reaconteur, where I'll be live 20 minutes after this video goes up. Now let's get straight into it. Alright, so before covering my personal problems with DoBig Studios as well as their whole black marketing stuff, let's go over the actual group. DoBig Studios is a registered business and LLC based in Florida, but registered in Wyoming under the category of a mobile game company. And although DoBig as a group has existed since 2020, they only officially registered as a business under an LLC in 2024 on February 16th. When they were registered, DoBig Studios started with their CEO being DoBig, aka John Kanata, and when the company was founded as an official LLC, their key staff members included John, or DoBig, as well as DoSmall, aka FreeConst12, aka Stefan Pernau, which I won't be referring to him by his full name yet because it really doesn't matter, he has like 4 names, but he is a very important individual as far as the black marketing and stuff that should be banned off of Roblox goes. As the ex-CEO and project lead at DoBig, he was a very important part of the group, but on top of that, he remains on Roblox despite being a black marketer in multiple different fields, as well as having association with exploiters, which I'll be covering later in this video. And despite having retired from the DoBig group about 2 to 3 months ago, I believe, sometime in May to April, he was still a huge part of the group before then, and that's pretty recent compared to the stuff that he was doing back in around 2023 to 2024. But I'll cover that later, so back to the actual group's information before that. DoBig Studios is essentially a private equity firm on Roblox. In real life, a private equity firm will buy high-value properties in mass to generate revenue by renting those properties or developing new land. DoBig Studios does the same thing, but with Roblox games, and this is why they're hated. They buy newly trending games from individual developers and maximize these games for monetization, often releasing poor updates which incentivize players to pay to win, so they make more money at the cost of quality in games that you might like. For example, DoBig ended up buying the following games: Grow a Garden 1, Grow a Garden 2, which was a lame cash grab sequel, Murders vs. Sheriffs, Fish, Blue Lock Rivals, A Dusty Trip, Blade Ball, Baddies, Build a Ring Farm, Build a Plane, Knockout, and 350 other anonymized games with a combined concurrent player count of about 290,000 for a total of 1.5 million concurrent players on various DoBig owned games every single day. With DoBig claiming to be responsible for 18% of Roblox's current daily returning users. Now, their terms seem to be based off in 2 different potential contracts from how I've seen different games be managed, from total to partial ownership, with usually temporary ownership on lots of these bigger games. For example, Fish actually is currently only partially owned by DoBig Studios, as the old lead developer by the name of Nate now has creative lead and final say over Fish again. So many of the pay-to-win elements were actually removed and stopped getting re-added to that game, so it's actually doing very good now, so good for Fish. However, seeing as how the game is still owned and advertised by DoBig according to their website and branding, I assume they retain partial ownership and profits, and more than likely Nate made a deal with them to renegotiate their ownership contract to make the game closer to his own actual ideal image. More than likely because he hated seeing it go down the route that it was. Other games get entirely bought out and the developers are replaced by DoBig Studios with freelance scripters and developers who get assigned groups that work per game and have project leads who focus on maximizing profit from the games that they acquire. They do rarely make their own games, but they do usually have independent developers on smaller games, although this wouldn't be too well known as all of their developers sign NDAs or non-disclosure agreements, so they can't legally talk about their work time with DoBig and how it's like. In fact, the only game that DoBig Studios actually claim to make on their own is Steal a Brain Rot, which, yeah, I guess they kinda made it, but they more so hired the people who are actively working on developing it mid-development, which, by the way, Steal a Brain Rot was a copy of a copy anyway, and it just happened to blow up for them, yielding massive profit, so they claim full creative ownership over it, even though it's not original and the staff at DoBig aren't the people who actually made it. DoBig Studios is scummy, but why don't we go over everything they do to games and all the corporate greed they've shown? Well, if we look at a dusty trip, 20 game passes. 20 game passes, that doesn't even make, they don't even make sense, by the way. This was a desert car driving survival game. Why are there laser guns and hoverboards? Along with that, they added loot boxes, yeah.
Oh, and we each got 15 game passes. And loot boxes. Don't forget the loot boxes.
Shut up, Arthur.
If you look at Blade Ball, they also monetize that game with tons of super expensive skins, simulated gambling, which I made an entire video on. Along with that, DoBig blatantly lied about their terms with certain changes that would be made to games like Fish. For example, stating that Fish would not be made pay to win, and then they sold luck boosters for 15 minutes at a time for 99 Robux. That's insane. $1 for double luck and it only lasted 15 minutes. For perpetual double luck, you'd be paying $4 an hour. But don't worry, they actually sell it in luck tiers, so you can get up to 8x luck boost for 800 Robux, which is about $10 for 1 hour of 8 times luck. Now, soon after, they would add expensive Robux bundles for beginners, but these bundles, which sold for 3,000 Robux, aka $30 on the high end, and around $10 on the low end, would sell pretty mid items. Like, yeah, the items in them were good, but they weren't the best, so buying them really wasn't worth it for late game players. However, with these bundles, you get stuff like 32 times luck for a whole server for 1 hour for $30, and this was the pay-to-win meta in Fish, as well as one of the biggest things that made people hate DoBig. And by the way, you can buy these bundles multiple times by just gifting them to people, so these scumbag pieces of shit at DoBig would just let people stack those server luck bundles, so you get insane levels of luck, like 1,000 times luck in a server for a couple of hours, which, by the way, 1,000 times luck in Fish didn't even work. It would break the game, and you'd start getting common fish again. And people would spam doing this in private servers and stuff, and it was just really lame. DoBig Studios is an outright predatory group, and they actively go through with exploiting young naive developers, underpaying them for games that they give undervalued prices for. For reference, a friend of mine who's a developer was offered $1,000 for their game, which is honestly an insulting offer for hundreds of hours of work and players. $1,000, and they promise you an easy exit strategy so you don't need to abandon your game, and they promise to revive it or make it better so you can see your game succeed. But in reality, all they do is revive it because they think it's worth something and they know they can profit off of it and the ideas you had within it, because they're too dumb to make their own original ideas. They also like to take over communities and profit off them without really caring about the health of the game, leading to many games declining in player counts while simultaneously increasing in projected revenue, with each individual player averaging higher Robux spent due to the nature of immense microtransactions in games owned by DoBig Studios. Now, outside of just being a scummy group, let's go over my personal experience with the ex-founding COO, Do Small, aka Stefan Poil Pereira Pernau, Brazilian Roblox developer retired from DoBig as their COO in 2026, this year before being replaced by Mike Duffy. And Stefan is the person who I had a terrible time with, as well as the person who was black marketing, as well as doing a lot of other scummy shit in the Deep Woken community for a while. And this is quite a long story. So when Deep Woken first came out in 2023, the Deep Woken trading server was made. Not the current one. Currently, I am the owner of the Deep Woken Trading Hub server. But the original server, Deep Woken Trading, was owned by FreeConst12, who at the time was also known as Do Small, who is the same person, the same Do Small, who is literally in the Roblox group for DoBig Studios, and who used to run their games. At the time, me, Agamatsu, Edgar, if any of you remember him, and basically every other Deep Woken YouTuber who was making videos and playing the game actively on release, were making videos, and we were also simultaneously occasionally sponsored by Do Small to put sponsors for the Deep Woken Trading server in our videos. Whatever, he wants the traction because more items in circulation through the server means more likely that he could probably get rare Deep Woken items. Maybe it's just for the enjoyment of hoarding or flexing, or maybe he actually likes the game and wanted the enchants when they were super rare so he could make builds with them. But this server was brewing with corruption. Some notable individuals associated with Do Small in this server, or at least to me they are Oven, who is still somewhat connected to Do Small to this day, and Ultra Gang, who at the time was one of the highest ranked middlemen in the trade server. I believe he was the highest rank. Now, I didn't know at the time, but Ultra Gang is, or at least was in 2018 through 2024, actually a very well-known exploiter and black marketer in the Deep Woken, Rogue Lineage, and Roblox Limited community, and he was hired as a middleman due to his connections with Do Small. So, Do Small just knew one of the biggest black marketers and exploiters in all of Roblox. Okay, now, association is enough to get you banned from Roblox and Deep Woken, but other than that, Do Small was actively abusing his position as the owner in Deep Woken Trading to black market and steal rare enchants back when Deep Woken's enchants used to have a drop rate of 0.1%. In fact, the staff, or at least most of all the high ranks, were definitely in on it. One of the high-ranking middlemen, Oven, asked me if I wanted an enchant. It was like a Storm Forgotten Gladius or something dumb like that. I don't know if that's relevant to all the people watching this video, but regardless, he ended up scamming someone and banning them from the server and giving me that enchant. I ended up finding the guy because the guy was actually a fan of mine who joined the server off of my link that I was sponsored with, and he ended up DMing me talking about how he got scammed by one of the middlemen and how he got banned from the server. Crazy luck that he ended up being one of my fans, so he DM'd me about it, but I ended up finding the guy to return his enchant. And while most of this isn't very well documented, the undeniable part of it was when the Deep Woken trading server was officially turned into a black market. Like, yes, I personally know that Do Small was black marketing limiteds, enchants, and also associating with exploiters, but there really isn't a lot on that. Now, there is actually a YouTube video which is pretty poorly made, who was actually made by an exploit creator who was using a bot with exploits to snipe people's enchants from their inventory, and Do Small was actually shown buying access to this bot from the original owner of it before the owner of it then made a video on it before his bot got patched, which was really funny. So I'm playing some of the info on that on screen now, and yeah, it's kind of shitty, so I really didn't want to like use this as too much proof, but because there's better stuff later. But this is literally him buying stuff that he should not be buying, actively exploiting and black marketing. What's undeniable was when he turned Deep Woken Trading Server into an actual black market and sold it, with about 30,000 people to witness it, along with the main developers of Rogue Lineage and Deep Woken, Archmage, and Reaconteur, who personally commented on it. Do Small wanted to start charging money for middlemen services in the Deep Woken Trading Server. He was warned by the mod team that he couldn't do that, so in response, he sold off the server to an exploiter group, including Ultra Gang, and converted it into a black market anyway.
You probably read the title and you're wondering what's up. Basically, you should leave the Deep Woken trading server if you're not already in it. Just leave that server right now. I know I made a video saying, yo, this is the best way to trade / get enchants. What happened was the owner kind of went off a perk, was sipping too much lean, and said, yo, bruh, the server is now a BM server. I kid you not, in like a second, he just switched up the server from an official trading server to a BM server.
This is the most documented event done by Do Small, and yet not only do so little people talk about it, he was never banned off of Roblox for it, and it's not even really covered on YouTube because it was kind of just something that happened in the Deep Woken community back when it was smaller. In fact, he also openly talked about black marketing limiteds and VCs, and although he does deserve to be banned off of Roblox, I personally don't think black marketing limiteds is that big of a deal for Roblox players. Like, the only reason it's even bannable is because Roblox wants to make sure they make their money, so I think whatever on their end, right? But I do think that Do Small is a huge piece of shit who deserves to be banned off of Roblox, along with DoBig and all the other scumbag groups who try to dig their claws into Roblox games to make as much money as possible while making the platform way worse. And their old COO even tried to monetize the games he played, selling off rare items on black markets just so he can make an extra buck at the cost of communities. Overall, DoBig Studios, as well as these groups like GameFam, are the private equity of Roblox, and they deserve to be deleted from the platform. Roblox used to be about playing games made by people for people who could enjoy them, but corporate greed is starting to take over the platform, and it's honestly really lame, so I hope if Roblox doesn't step in, then as a community we can stop supporting these groups and the games that they own, so hopefully their business won't be as profitable. And fucking ban Do Small. I don't understand how he's still on the platform after everything he has done with like 30,000 witnesses in the Deep Woken trading server. He was actively black marketing, he sold the server to a black marketer and exploiter, turned it into a black marketer, condoned that to make his own money. What are we doing? Ban this guy. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. Shout out to my YouTube members of tier 2 or higher: Philip, Akio Sugikuni, Zerksky, Fun Guns, Crypto, Broccoli, Delusional Mo, Dev, Suited Wendigo at the highest tier, love you, Abrowski, Silos, Bunny Masher, Freshie, and welcome to 2 more new tier 2 members, Corin and Theos Banners. Love you guys, welcome, and I love you all. Hope you all have an amazing day, and goodbye.